I'm Kevin Klein, City Councillor for Charleswood, Tuxedo Westwood. It's Friday, which means it's time to answer a resident's question. If you have a question, by the way, send it to me, Kevin at kevinklein.ca. Call the office at 204-986-5232. Leave a message on social media or shoot us a DM. This question I thought was really good. It's asking what is the process to have a motion or a bylaw or a change happen at City Hall. We have a system that is the only system in Canada. We have a governance model that many councillors have fought for decades to change because it gives the balance of power to the leadership. It's called the strong mayor model or the big mayor model. And that's where the mayor selects his executive policy committee. He pays them more money, gives them more expense account money that they don't have to be responsible to you for. And then he brings in his own deputy mayor and now an acting deputy mayor. They get paid more or they get a larger expense account or both. And now it's the police board chair who gets a higher expense account. These are all the perks of those jobs as long as you toe the line and you ensure that you remain dedicated to the inner circle. That's the strong mayor model. We'll talk more about that next week because I want to give you some further insight and factual details. But let's talk about how the process works at City Hall. If you're a non-inner circle member, like I am, don't know why, but if you are, the only opportunity you have to enter a motion for change or a bylaw or a process is at what's called community committees. And these community committees are made up of 3 councillors that are geographically close to each other. For example, I belong to the Assiniboia Community Committee, and that's made up of my colleagues Councillor Janice Lukes and Councillor Scott Gillingham. All community committees meet in the first week of a month, or close to the first week of the month, and there's a purpose for that. So they meet in the first week of the month. We meet, and that's the opportunity for Councillor Lukes or myself, because we're not in the inner circle, to put motions forward for change. And they would then go to the specific standing policy committee that we'll talk about in a minute that is responsible for specific areas within the city. So an example, I put a motion forward that requested all councillors be given the same access to budget details. Everybody is treated the same. We know that members of the EPC +3 have greater access in detail to budget information. They meet regularly. They have met probably 15, 20 times since the beginning of the month. And we've only had the opportunity to speak to the CFO once. So there's a real difference there. So we put a motion forward to say everyone should be treated the same, everyone should have equal access. Well, it got voted, supported by Councillor Lukes. But Councillor Gillingham, who happens to be the chair of finance where this motion would go, and happens to be the right-hand man to our mayor, Brian Bowman, voted it down, said no, you have more access than we've ever had. Well, everyone has their own opinion. I disagree. So that motion then goes to that standing policy committee, and the standing policy committees are chaired by the executive policy committee members who we've already stated are selected by the mayor. They get paid more money, get higher expense accounts. So at that standing policy committee, they'll debate it a little bit, they'll have a vote, and it loses. Of course, the motion is not supported. No, let's give councillors more access, or the same access? No, you get enough now. You're getting more than you did before. It's better than it ever was. We're great. That's enough. So it gets accepted or voted as information and it dies, or it has to go to EPC. So they control that. So now it just goes to EPC, the mayor and EPC will meet. We know they meet all the time as EPC +3. We know this because the Winnipeg Free Press put in a Freedom of Information request, and they did a big story in January where they brought out all the facts and had the proof that these meetings happen, even though it's a violation of the Winnipeg Act. But it still happens. Now they pulled people's calendars, they matched them, They had proof. It was Aldo Santini. He did a great job on that just before he retired. Look it up, in January of 2020. So the mayor and them will meet. They'll have their executive policy meetings, and if you ever watch them, that's why they have such great debates. Everybody's thanking each other. It's very polite. It's very quick. They get through it. Boom, they're done. Right? They're given direction. They know how it's going to go. They have pre-meetings. And if it has to go to council, it will go to council, and the motion, of course, that motion in particular, would lose by a count of EPC +3 most of the time. Look, the only way to really get a motion put forward is if you're a member of the inner circle. You can get done through EPC, which is where a lot of motions come forward. Or they come forward at the Standing Policy Committee by the chair. We have put a couple motions forward at council, and twice we've won. In 2 years, twice. The first one was changing the ward name to Charleswood, Tuxedo, Westwood. At the time of the election, they had changed the ward to Charleswood, Tuxedo, which is not fair to all the people in Westwood. So I made a commitment, Charleswood, Tuxedo, Westwood. Everybody voted for it. How could you not? The most recent one was the flashing amber lights, but they had to, because he pulled the order, the offer. They all sit on in the media and publicly and at meetings that they all supported it. They wished he would have put it back. So I asked him if he would put it back. We asked for the vote and took out a couple of the little tricky wording positions that were in there. And it just passed. I think it was one councillor still voted no. That's how you put a change through the system. It has to be voted on at council. The public service can't change anything or do anything unless council votes on it and gives them the permission to do it. Think about that. That's very key. The public service can't make any changes to processes or things that they're doing in certain in all key perspectives without the permission of council or a directive of council. Really, it's EPC. So who's in charge? Doesn't take a rocket scientist. Council's in charge. But we're really not, are we? I mean, I know I've been tough on some of my colleagues, and I see it now. I shouldn't. It's really not their fault. We have really nice people here that unfortunately they don't have that experience at managing people at an executive level. You know, we've had problems in the city of Winnipeg for decades. The only thing that has changed all the way along is, mayors and councillors. But the problems seem to exist, just at different levels. We need to do our job, which is what the system says. We hold public service accountable. They can't do anything without a council directive. We need to start doing our job. It was a great question. Again, send them to me, kevin@kevinklein.ca, or call the office, 204-986-5232.